Hi guys, it's Cindy Leach, your polymer clay tutor. In today's studio tip, I'm talking about polymer clay blades, which I consider to be a must-have polymer clay tool. Now, when you're working with polymer clay, you need to cut it. So what kind of tools you use will depend on what you're doing. Now, a lot of people will just use like a kitchen knife or something like that. They work fine, but I don't really like them. They tend to be really wide at the top, and when you cut through, it can kind of distort, especially when you're cutting canes and that kind of thing. I just don't like the width of the blade, but they work if that's where you need to start. Another thing that a lot of people use is an Xacto knife. Now, Xacto knives are good for little details, or if you have to cut out a particular shape, but they're not very good for cutting out things like a cane. They're just not wide enough, they're not big enough, and I find that I rarely use the X-Acto knife. But one thing that I go to every day is a clay blade. Now here I've got a few different kinds of clay blades. This is just kind of a cheap brand. Ignore the little red things. Those are pieces of Sugru that I've put little handles on there. But the clay blade, this is like from Amaco, I believe, and it was just in a kit at Michael's. And it's a nice stiff blade. It doesn't it bends a little bit, but not too much. So it's really good for cutting something like a cane, where you want it to not bend too much when you're cutting through something. You want it to stay straight. It's good for that. But then there's another set that you can also get easily at somewhere like Michael's or a craft store or online or wherever, and it's made by Sculpey. It's called a Super Slicer, and they've got quite a few blades to it. It actually comes with two handles, but you can see I put one handle on this longer, stiffer blade and one handle on this shorter, flexible blade. I don't ever cut with really too much with the handles at the end, but I do like to cut sometimes. I like to draw my knife through, and if you've got a handle on the other end, it's not going to cut through as easily. So but I just want to show you that the flexible blades are a little bit harder to keep really straight, but they still work for slicing. The little bit stiffer is a little bit better for cutting a nice even slice from a cane. Now they also carry in the set this is like a ripple blade. This is the larger ripple. All right, let me cut something that's not a cane with that. And you can see you're going to get kind of like a ripple, like a ripple chip. And they have a finer one that has an even finer cut to it. I think they're neat. They have their place. You can use them for certain things. I just don't often grab them. I really mostly just use the stiffer blade or the flexible blade. Now, when you're doing larger sheets or you want to cut out something, let's see, I'll run a little piece through here. The nice thing about a flexible blade is that you can really curve it and cut out something with a curve to it, or you can bend it whatever way you want to, and it really is nice for cutting out pendants and that type of thing. Oh, I have something here, I'll just grab it. Something like this pendant here, this faux abalone pendant, I had a flexible blade and I could cut it how I wanted to in whatever direction. So that is really helpful to have a flexible blade in certain situations. Now, I just wanted to mention, I think there's a company that I've got to know, a guy from Brazil who has a polymer clay brand that used to be called Bozzy. Now it's called PB Clay. And but he had sent me a few samples, and I'll show them to you sometime. But in his pack of samples, he had this polymer clay blade in there. This is very interesting. I think the North American brand should think about something like this. It's almost like a plastic. It's super thin, but the blade itself actually won't cut you. I don't know if you may be able to cut yourself if you really worked at it, but it's not sharp, but it's so thin that it cuts through like a cane really nicely. So it would be a perfect solution for children or people that you were worried about getting cut, because you're just not going to cut yourself with something like this, where some of these other blades are can be very, very sharp, and if you pick them up the wrong direction, you could end up cutting yourself. So I just thought this is an interesting product. I don't know, he may have a patent on it, and I don't know how easy it is for you to get them since he's in Brazil. But it was an interesting idea that I thought I'd share with you. So I hope that was helpful for you, that you understand a little bit more about polymer clay blades. There are some artists that love to use something called a tissue blade, which is a steel blade that is used in the medical industry, but you kind of have to special order those, and they're extremely sharp, but they are good. But I found that any of these ones are good enough to work with polymer clay. So I hope you found that helpful. If you liked it, make sure to let us know. And if you have any products or ideas or problems that you'd like me to do a video on in the future, leave those in the comment section below. We love to hear from you. All right, so we'll see you next time, and bye for now.